I recently watched Squid Game and quickly noticed how the game is actually an accelerated version of real life. In Squid Game, the consequences are life and death, and while the game itself is very dramatic and violent, I would argue that we are already living in a Squid Game reality, but in a much more subtle way. The same driving factors that forced contestants to risk life and limb over having to live in poverty another day are the same forces that exist in the real world. Most people are blind to the cloak and dagger dynamics that are made obvious in Squid Game, but are used much more subtly by everyone in real life. In this video, we're going to take a deep dive into the themes of Squid Game and how they relate to real life. Then I'm going to show you how you can use this information to your advantage. Before we begin, however, be sure to smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm.
You all gone crazy? We have to leave! We can't keep putting up with this insanity!
So what if we leave? Tell me, what changes?
Where am I supposed to go, huh? Out there, I don't stand a chance. I do in here. No, I've got nothing out there. Come on, let's finish this thing!
In Squid Game, contestants are chosen by a nameless organization to compete in life-or-death children's games for the chance to win $38 million. All the contestants that are extended the offer are either highly in debt or have no net worth, and most are being pursued by loan sharks. The aspect of poverty is an overarching theme in Squid Game, and is the main reason why the contestants choose to compete in the games of their own free will. While the characters in the show may seem to be a group of highly unlucky individuals who made some bad financial decisions, they are not uncommon in today's society. The average American debt is $92,000. 54% of people live paycheck to paycheck. 21% of the population is struggling to pay their bills, meaning they have little to no money left over. These are conservative numbers, by the way, with some articles saying 78% of people are living paycheck to paycheck after the virus. The Federal Reserve reports that 39% of Americans don't have enough in savings to cover a $400 emergency. The average amount of time it takes to pay off student loans is 20 years. All this information adds up to one simple fact. Most people are broke and in debt and will remain that way for a long time. While you may die very quickly in Squid Game, being broke is a slow death. The average wealthy person tends to live about 10 years longer than the average poor person. This is obviously due to better health care, nutrition, diet, exercise, etc. People also tend to be happier when they are more wealthy and suffer less mental illness. If Squid Game were real and you were chosen to compete, more than likely you would see several people that you knew.
How could you want to go there?
But as soon as I got back here, I got some harsh reminders. What they say is true. That torture is worse.
Episode 2 of Squid Game, which is where that clip is from, is titled Hell, and it takes place after the first game when everyone decides to forfeit and stop playing. This episode further highlights the points I have just made by showing the lives of the characters after the game, and they all come to the conclusion that this life is actually worse than being in the games themselves. They then decide to re-enter the games. A life of poverty and slow decline is worse than a quick death. While it may be disheartening to know that the financial inequality shown in Squid Game is more realistic than you might have thought, it isn't necessarily a bad thing. Once you're aware of how bad most people are with finances, it gives you a sort of clarity and teaches you that you need to take these things seriously so you don't end up like the characters in the show. With financial literacy, anyone can turn their life around and be successful.
You bet on horses. It's the same here, but we bet on humans. I did not expect you to finish your race.
Listen carefully. I'm not a horse. I'm a person.
Throughout Squid Game, there is a constant theme of betting, gambling, and competition. The have-nots bet on horses and games, while the haves bet on people. The idea of competition is a big factor in Squid Game, and is emphasized by the games that pit player against player. Guion is a naturally kind character, but he's also very naive, as we see him constantly being surprised by the brutality of other players and their betrayals. He especially has a hard time fathoming some of the things Sung-woo does in order to move forward in the game, ultimately becoming his final opponent. He has such a hard time accepting that some people will do anything to win, that it's the main reason for his depression and further spiral after he wins. Just like with the previous topic, competition is made obvious in the show, but most people aren't aware of how prevalent it is in real life. While most people aren't competing for $38 million or death, They are competing constantly in smaller ways that have just as large of an impact. For instance, if you apply for a college, you are competing with thousands of other applicants. If you try to buy a house, you are competing with other buyers. If you apply for a job, you are competing against other potential hires. If you are trying to win over a love interest, you are competing against all their other options. These are just a few examples, but any one of them could change your life forever. The way society is set up is that you are always competing against someone. This may seem daunting, but it's actually a good thing. It pushes you to improve and reach new heights. Without competition, you wouldn't know what is possible or what you're capable of. Gion's ability to connect with people helped him somewhat in Squid Game, but ultimately he only made it as far as he did because of luck. He was incredibly lucky to have been caught by Ali in red light, green light, lucky that Sung Woo thought of the 3 steps forward move in tug of war, lucky Il Nam let him win in marbles, and lucky he picked 16 instead of 1 in hopscotch. Sung Woo, on the other hand, made it as far as he did solely based on merit and a willingness to win. To thrive in the real world, which is full of competition, you need to adopt the attitudes of both players. Be kind to people and be willing to cooperate, like Gion, but understand the true nature of people and be willing to do whatever it takes, like Sung Woo. This is the best way to thrive in a world full of competition. As Niccolò Machiavelli once said, any man who tries to be good all the time is bound to come to ruin amongst the great number who are not good. The final theme that can be learned from Squid Game, and is highly applicable to real life, is that you can't really help anyone when you have nothing. We see over and over again, Gion helps people in small ways, but ultimately these acts of kindness fall short and don't amount to much in the end. In some ways, they actually end up hurting him and leaving him more in debt and more vulnerable. Now, I'm not saying it's bad to be kind or compassionate, but let's contrast him helping before he won with after he won. When he was rich, he was able to not only provide for his daughter and ex-wife, but also Saibyuk's brother and Sung Woo's family. Plus, he still had plenty of money to spare, which he could further use for good, which I bet we will see in the next season. Gion was like many people in the modern-day world who believe that money is inherently evil. It was ultimately Il Nam who, before his death, was able to show Gion that people are still good and that money can be used for good as well. When you have resources, the amount of good you can do is 10x than when you don't. Therefore, in the beginning, it's better to be frugal with yourself and build up your power, so later in the future you can truly bring about change. Sure, help out people when you can, but understand that overextending your time and money will often lead you to ruin yourself. Money, power, status isn't about capitalism or being an elite or anything like that. It's about escaping the rat race and being financially sound. As we have seen in this analysis, we live in a highly competitive world where the odds are stacked against you by default. This isn't the core problem, however. The issue is that most people aren't aware of how many people are broke, or that most people don't have your best interest at heart. Their naivety is what's dangerous. However, once you learn that money, power, and status are simply tools used to shield you and bring about positive change, the societal issues we see in Squid Game in real life are much more manageable because we can see clearly. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know down in the comments what you would do if you were selected to compete in Squid Game.